36 degrees in Lagos, September 1, 2025. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Indeed, I mean, it's the Ember months. It felt like January was just yesterday, but we're in September. I mean, it's so exciting. I think this year flew by. It just feels like the year ran past all of us. But hey, I digress. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine. It's Sunrise Daily right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayla Megwa, and what a day we have for you today. I mean, let's start off with some of the biggest stories. It started off, I think, over the weekend when we had the bad news about the former Inspector General of Police passing, Mr. Solomon Arase. And of course, tributes have been pouring in from everywhere, even the president. Everyone talking about the legacy that this man left on the police force. Someone who was known for professionalism. Sadly, he passed on over the weekend, and our condolences with his family and all his loved ones. And we wish all of them the fortitude to bear this loss. It's a loss for the entire country, indeed. Also over the weekend, we had the elections, the local government elections in Rivers State. We'll be bringing that conversation up for you. I think we're going to start off with that, Ayo. Let's see what we can hear from people who actually monitored these elections. What are some of the things that they noticed? Was there voter apathy? Did we not understand it? Did we go to the wrong places? Someone said, I think it was the FCT minister that said, you know, that there are places that were crowded, that we went to places that were business districts. You know, but if you went to a place that was residential, you probably see more people. Did people feel cheated about this election? And that's our first. Also, we take country, and I think at some point today we're going to be talking about the obedience movement. It's a movement that it's been on for quite a while. It's one that really made a lot of us proud, seeing young people involved in the political process of their country, interested even in politics, and standing by this man who they thought represented their interests the most. But over the years, it does feel like, you know, the obedient movement, we noticed, first of all, that the obedient movement and the Labour Party are not exactly the same thing, which was a little confusing. Where are they right now? What are they going to be doing as we gear up for 2027? And Ayo, what are your thoughts on some of these situations that we've had to deal with over the weekend?
If I'm being honest with you, Kayla, I think I'll go more with the thoughts of our guests this morning. And for one reason, by the way, the Rivers election that you talked about, interestingly, I was privileged to be on air on Saturday morning to talk about some of the issues that the first 4 hours of our broadcast on that day from 8 a.m. till 12 noon, we spent largely talking about the Rivers election, the delays, the long queues that we are seeing and all of that. Those are some of the conversations that we had. And even though there was slight delay in how it started, eventually kind of took off, and perspectives are coming on that. But so let's take one of them. Sam Itodo joins us this morning. He's executive director of YIAGA Africa. He joins us virtually from here in Lagos. Good morning, Mr. Itodo, and thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks for having me.
Well, it's been a minute, and I know that YIAGA is very, very active whenever there is any election. First of all, your general perspective about local government elections generally. We'll talk about Rivers specifically in the coming minutes. One of the things that I have seen is that, and INEC has also validated that, you may also want to speak to it, that the local government elections is the lowest, usually gets the lowest patronage of the people, you know, compared to previous days and previous years, previous local government elections. How do you assess the local government elections in Rivers State compared to the one in Lagos, for instance, or in other parts of the country?
Well, thank you very much. I think, let me reiterate a point that YIAGA Africa has made consistently, is that all the local government elections that held before the Supreme Court judgment and after the Supreme Court judgment were nothing but a travesty of electoral democracy. Those elections, virtually all of them, ran foul of provisions of the law. So in other words, they violated provisions of the Electoral Act. And if you challenge the legality of those elections in court, I doubt if all of them will meet the test. The second point is the local government elections, or what happens at the local government level. It's nothing but electoral coronation. They are not elections because the state electoral commissions are not given the independence to function. Their operational independence is subject to the approval of the governor. If you ask all the chairs of CX across the country, they will tell you and express their ordeal of how it's challenging to access funding to conduct those elections. The second point is the issue related to the tenure of local governments councils. And some people believe it's not a settled matter, but the Electoral Act is very clear in Part 6 that talks about the tenure of the officers for the FCT area council, because by virtue of Section 150 of the 2022 Electoral Act, the procedure for the conduct of local government elections are already provided in the Act. And then you look at the quality of the elections. For the most part, whether it's voter accreditation, collation of results, you just see CX writing results, and they are not a reflection of the will of the people. And then the issue related to turnout is also extremely poor because citizens are less interested in what happens at the local government, not because they don't want to participate, but to a large extent, they just feel that it's a sheer waste of time. And that has been the recurring decimal in all the local government elections that have been conducted.
That would be a little concerning because, so on the one hand, when we spoke with the chairman of RISIEC, the River State Independent Electoral Commission, one of the things he said, when we raised this issue of other, parties not getting as much patronage during the elections, his opinion was that most of the time, the opposition parties always approach the polls from a defeatist perspective. Do you think that's a patronizing statement, or you think he's actually speaking facts?
I don't think it's speaking facts. You leave opposition parties with no option when a CIEC operates as though it's an appendage of the executive. You need to build confidence on the part of the opposition actors. For instance, let's take Kaduna as a classic example. In the build-up to the Kaduna local government elections, all of a sudden, the CX just changed the collation or the resource management procedure in its guidelines. If you look across also in other states, you discover that even the guidelines regulating those elections are unknown, to the actors. For instance, in the Rivers State, in the Rivers elections, which law actually governed the conduct of that election? And these are the things. In Akwa Ibom, you also saw a situation where a particular candidate, a party won, and he was declared the winner by the returning officer. All of a sudden, the results changed. So how do you inspire confidence on the part of the actors? What you simply see at the states is the governors see the local governments as tools of power and also an arena of asserting their influence. And so they continue to hold the local government councils, to ransom. That's exactly what happens because the governors think that they should have control over local governments, and that this whole financial autonomy has not even made the situation any lighter. And that's why they are exerting their influence to ensure that they capture the entire local government structures. And it's just really unfortunate. So I don't blame the opposition parties. I blame the CX. I also blame the governors for the quality of local democracy at the state level, despite the landmark judgment by the Supreme Court.
Mr. Itodo, you have pointed out quite a number of issues. And these are not things that we're hearing you say for the first time. We've been hearing these complaints about the quality of elections, especially at the local levels, where you would think that the focus on the best elections would be, does come off really disappointing. But in River State, it's a little more complicated with River State. I'm going to start off with your views on people who believe that the election shouldn't even have held in the first place. How democratic was this process? if a local government election was being held under the supervision of a sole administrator that is also being contested, that situation. And then, of course, the issue about the Electoral Commission head in the state and the legality of these polls in the first place, before we even come to what it is that we saw on the ground during the elections.
Of the Rivers election, because first, that election shouldn't have held. That election is an illegality. It's an expression of, unconstitutionality in every respect. And I say this for two reasons. And I've made this point consistently, that as a country, we need to decide whether we want to be a democracy or we want something else. Because you can't say you are a democracy and you don't respect the rule of law. This weaponization of democratic instruments is totally unacceptable. First, you have a state of emergency rule. It is just unheard of that within the current context, you can conduct elections. Which law governed the election in the first place? Even the State Electoral Commission, does it have the legality and the constitutionality, especially for a matter that is still before the Supreme Court? It's just really unfortunate. I don't think that election, if and only if we want to be true and we want to uphold our laws, then that election shouldn't have held. The second point is the question I've asked consistently. What gives the sole administrator the power to appoint men and women into the State Electoral Commission? For heaven's sake. He is not a democratically elected governor of the state. We are in an emergency situation. And under an emergency situation, you have to wait until the emergency is lifted, and then you allow the democratically elected governor and the State Electoral Commission to proceed with conducting democratically conducted elections. But the current, the development, it's really sad for our constitution. And it's just clear that some individuals, some people who have power, are doing everything to ensure that they capture, the states. I think they have done. And I just weep for our democracy. And I hope that, if this matter is brought before their lordships and the courts, that they are courageous to address this misnomer. Because if you let this stand, we'll be setting a dangerous precedent for our democracy.
It's a very telling statement right there. Before we wrap up with you, I know you say you'd rather not comment on the quality of the election because it shouldn't have held in the first place. But, just maybe a word for the people of Rivers State. One thing that we did hear the FCT minister say is that, well, with these local government elections done now, then that means the road is clear for this emergency situation to be removed, and Fubara can be back by the 18th of this month, which is something a lot of people are calling for. People are talking about this election like arrangement, let's see what we can do to sort this local government thing out so that we can move on to our governor coming back and we can have our democracy, our democratically elected governor back. Maybe a word to the Rivers people about what it is, that has happened and what kind of example it is setting for the future of elections in their state.
I think the only message for the Rivers people is to continue to commend them, for how peaceful they have remained. And people of good conscience in the state should continue to speak against this unconstitutionality and this abuse of the rule of law. Any attempt, to impose undemocratic and very draconian, leadership in that blessed state should be resisted, and I love the fact that the people are speaking out. They should continue to speak. They shouldn't fold their hands and accept this, because what the political actors want to do is to oppress the people to have their way. And as citizens, continue to ask those questions, continue to push back, and if possible, test some of these actions in the court of law. But I really commend them that they have not in any way resorted to violence, because violence does not in any way solve the problem. It will take resilience, consistent advocacy, and pressure. And only then can the powers actually give way.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Samson Itudo, for making all the time to be with us this morning. And good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Bye.
All right, so still talking about some of the major stories going on in the news right now. We have in the studio joining us Mr. Peter Ame to take a look at some of the major stories in the news. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning.
So let's start off with where we stopped with Mr. Samson Itudo. When he said it's a state, it was an attempt to capture the state, you were nodding, you agreed very much while you were sitting down here. What are your thoughts on this election? Was this a state capture?
It's not an attempt. The state had been captured, because if you look at even the decision of the president, leading up to this local government election, it is a struggle about how many states can I control. That's been the struggle. You're not just talking about perception. You're talking about reality, what we can see. Section 305 that gives, the power of the president to call for state of emergency never gave him any other power to remove the governor and the state house of assembly. And the case is before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has refused to hear the case, waiting for the 6 months to elapse, so that, because if they take on the case and they take decision in favor of the people, it will affect the interest of the president. And if they take decision in favor of the president, it will damage our constitution. So they have decided to abstain and then allow this illegality, this unconstitutionality, this authoritarian, application of instrument that is unknown to democracy to prevail. Because it's clear that the governor enjoys immunity under Section 308. So why are you doing all this? How can an elected president? We are running a federating unit. The federating federation is when you have more than 3, level of government. So you have a situation where the federating unit that has autonomous control, that has his own election, is being undermined by the president, who was also elected. So it is clear that it is a state capture, but it is undermining our democratic process. It is insulting to our collective sensibility and our reasoning to see that we sit down and people talk about, the state of emergency can be lifted now. Local government election have been conducted. People have. Do you know how bad this decision, this obvious robbery looks like? That the governor lost his local government and the local government election. It's a local government where the governor comes from. He has an assembly there. He has himself as governor. See, look, when we're trying to do something, we should do something so that posterity will judge us right.
There are ripples and rumors that, well, the next phase is for Fubara to decamp to the APC. Do you think that's going to happen next?
For me, I'm already disappointed in Fubara that he has shown, that what he wants is to get back to office. I think he would have given it all, and even if the process and he decided any loss come to him, I think it would have been bad to fight for the future generation. I think he was beaten to surrender, and that is not good for our democracy, because all state instrumentality of the state was deployed against him, and he surrendered, and that's not good, because some of us spoke out. I've never met him, I've never spoken to him, there's no connection. I just feel that it's necessary that this democracy that we have gotten, whether it's a semi-democratic process, we must be able to nurture it to become fully blown democratic system, so that we'll have a democracy that young generations and future generations will be able to go freely to the polls and get themselves elected, or vote for somebody they truly believe in.
You're still National Secretary of the CUPP.
Yes, of course.
What party do you belong to now?
I've always been in Labour Party.
So you're still in Labour, you didn't go to the ADC?
No, I didn't go to the ADC.
All right, so let's talk about the representation of political parties in the Rivers local government elections. Did we see that happen, or was this just...
Look, I've been national champion of two times each for position. I can tell you that it was just trying to that there was election. Any other parties that come to participate, just participate. I don't think there's local government election in Nigeria. Local government election, if local government is captured in Section 7, subsection 1, where CX are supposed to be in charge of conducting local government election. And that's why I always ask people, when you ask people how many election management body we have, they say, oh, INEC. No, INEC is just for federal elections. We have 37. including each state has one. So you need to have a situation where you know that the CX are undemocratic institutions. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in conducting credible elections to represent the interests of the people. They only believe in towing the line and interest of those who control them at a particular time. That's why you find out a military retired general who was not elected by the River State people is conducting local government election. Is this an aberration?
Is this a precursor to what we're going to see in 2027?
No, federal elections are different. Local government has only had these issues.
We've been hearing this before, but it's been a recurring situation where if you see where many states have had governors who decamped, and we see the ruling party taking over, it's most likely that when the federal elections happen, we're going to see a repeat of that.
No, people are not learning from history. They're not looking at our election trajectory. If you look at 2011, how Jonathan won, you see that there are places they had already lost governors that he won. At 2011, how Jonathan won, you see that there are places they had already lost governors that he won. And if you look at 2015 when Buhari won, you look at how many governors did the APC brought to the election. How many governors did they have? They didn't have enough governors to cover 36 states. And so you have a situation that we need to sit down, analyze the process properly, and see that the people now decide the outcome of our election. 2023 is just, you can see it is an obvious example that Peter Obi came into the election about 6 months to the election, and the people decided that they wanted a new life, a new way of determining their own future, and you saw the result. Yes, 6-point-something million was recorded. We know that is not the true sense of it, because people tell you, oh, that is public available data. IRF2 is a public available data.
Well,
so
there's also the situation
on data that is available.
There's also the question about your political party and how you're putting yourselves together in preparation for 2027. We don't know who your presidential candidate is going to be yet, even though some people say it might be too early to be able to have that discussion. But we do have feelers that your principal, Peter Obi, is being reached out to by other political parties. We're also hearing, in fact, we even saw a response from Mr. Keyamo, I think, over the weekend, where he was, speaking up about the concept of a Jonathan and Obi ticket, and saying these are not exactly a good idea for the country right now. What do you make of all of this? Where should your principal be the presidential candidate of the Labour Party? Should he stay in the ADC? Should he listen to the PDP? What is going on
a lot of people,
with your party?
A lot of people want to be in the shoe of Peter Obi today.
He's the most courted bride.
Yes, a lot of people want to be in his shoe. He's the biggest political commodity as I speak to you today. Everybody is speaking to him. Everybody wants him to be in their cover. Sometimes some people want him for selfish reasons, so that maybe if he joined their coalition, they will now decide to defeat him collectively from the back door, so that they will now use him. But at the end of the day, the people are the one that will determine an election. And I know advice is getting, he will make use of them, so that not for his interest. If it's for election, Peter Obi doesn't have those kind of attitude of going to buy vote and give money. People come to TV and say, oh, he offered us money. It's the last thing he would do. He could offer you business. I know, I've been with him. He could tell you that, what business are you doing? I want to support you with advice and support you with connection. But this is what he can do. But to say he offer you money, I think a lot of Nigerians know that is not true. So you go to the 2023, you talk about precursor. It's not a precursor. This is not you can't use any of the by-elections. I'm of the opinion that our by-election should be abolished, that we should have a replacement by a political party when a person who was elected on their platform dies. The political party should replace, because in the cases of Amechi versus Omeha, by the Supreme Court, it has said that the ticket belongs to the party. There's no by-election that is not overwhelmingly oppressed by those in power who are in governor, who bring out all their resources, who bring out them into trying to prove their point. But when it comes to election, and when it comes to the time for people to determine that vote, the presidential candidates will be on the ballot. So it will be a different ball game. People will vote on basis of what the president, those who are promised, who are in government, what have they done? Those who are making promises, what is their history? So voting will come along that line. I don't think anybody should panic about 2027. I don't think people should panic about political parties. But because at the end of the day, these issues are normal issues within political parties. I've been party manager myself. Yeah. There are always fractions. But at the end of the day, this will be resolved before the election and primaries.
All right, let's move away from politics for a little bit and see if we can look at some of the issues. Of course, this particular situation about the Dangote truck accident and the young lady who has now died as a result of this. So we're seeing statements from everywhere. Dangote's office has released a statement. What should happen going forward? Because this is one death too many. considering this particular business and how popular this business is and the responsibility on the man who runs this business?
The man is contributing to our economic development. There's no doubt about that. But you need to come the place of government. Our roads motorable. You have roads in these areas that this accident are occurring. If we have double 6-lane road, highway, running through the federal highways within the state and the federation, then we'll have a very good passage for these trailers to pass. Government is not concentrating policy towards the direction of trying to build a pathway for this truck because we don't have train line that will transport this cargo around the country. So government need to put infrastructure in place to be able to provide even private business, because these private businesses are creating jobs. They're also helping to expand their economy. So it's key that government put more investment in this process in trying to also save life. Then you look at the second area. Accidents do occur. I'm sorry for those who have lost their life. It's really sad in this very circumstance. So what we say is that if government has invested properly in our healthcare sector, like say we have federal medical centers across Nigeria or national hospitals across Nigeria that are well equipped, we won't be talking about flying this young lady abroad and trying to get her visa, trying to process documents in the process of 21 days. It is going to be difficult for her. We need to be able to equip our own system that will be able to take such emergencies and then treat it adequately and have doctors that are well trained, doctors that are well paid to take this issue. So, and Dangote also must look for another alternative. Probably taking some of these drivers to international driving schools or maybe police driving schools, police driving college in Enugu, so that they can get proper driving skills, because this driver sees small cars on the road like ant or obstacle that they can just crush. Oh, yeah. That is their perception, that is their reasoning, and which is not good for our collective survival. So we need to be able to have well-trained drivers on the road, and that is the work of where road safety will come in to mandate that this training is done, especially for the Dangote truck drivers. So we need to have this done. But for the young lady, it is sad that this had happened, and we should do everything possible that I have online here so that we can, stop the recurrence of such situations.
I mean, our condolences really with the Otabo family. Her name is Ruth Otabo. Yeah. So sad that this happened. May her soul rest in peace. All right, let's move on now to the passport fee hike. Your principal was being criticized for speaking up against this fee hike. In fact, someone asked him, does he think that you update passport every month? Why is he complaining about the money? And your principal, Mr. Peter Obi's point on this was the fact that, look, the passport costs more than people's minimum wage. It costs more than minimum wage to get your passport right now. Talk to us a little bit about that this fee hike, because a lot of people have been condemning it since it happened.
I've looked at, somebody said that, does he think they renew passport
monthly? Yeah.
But they don't understand. When a man earns 70,000 as minimum wage or 100, let's just even give it 100,000 naira. Is he going to, even if he's going to do passport by December, he's going to have to save maybe 10,000 naira from that money. There are too many what they call it, increase in a lot of tariffs already since this government came into office. How is he going to have the capacity to be able to save such money while it takes care of his school fees of his children, while it takes pay for band A and band B, why you also look at the inflation at the core, 80 of subsidy. These are economic. So many reforms. You have to think of the people. You have to think of the ordinary man on the street. When the emergency come, in normal country, normal society, why people think like this, that when they work for 5 years, 10 years, they don't go on vacation. So, but in a normal society, in fact, it is even compulsory for the ministry to ask you, when are you traveling? You need to take some rest, So you are now asking that Nigerians who want to travel to places like Ghana and Co. or any other African country cannot have passport. The arbitrary increase in this passport fare is unfair. It is not this is not the appropriate time, and this is not actually going to help the economy to grow, because taxation had never, the extreme taxation has never grown any country. Just continue to earn money from a society that is not, productive in itself. It will continue to drive the available resources in the pocket of every citizen.
Another story that came up over the weekend, and this one has to do with the NDLEA in the war on drugs. It's somewhere in Plateau State, in Mangu local government. I think it was 3 or 4 acres of a marijuana farm that was busted by the NDLEA. And the question that I see people asking online, and I'm asking it as well, how did the farm start? Who is the local government chairman of this place? How do you have 3 to 4 acres of marijuana growing in a place like in a local government area in this country where you know that this is illegal? How did this happen? Kudos really to the NDLEA for busting that place and, you know, bringing the story to light. But it does talk to us a little bit about governance at local levels. Who is the local government chairman of Mangu, in Mangu? And the places where all of this, there's governance, there's lawmakers, there are all these people there. How did this happen under everybody's watch?
People are making a lot. We don't have local government chairman in Nigeria. They are only just, how they call it, area boys to the governors. They don't, sincerely, we don't have to.
Even so, how can a blatant crime be happening in front of you?
They are not doing anything. They are not interested. All they want is for the governor to be able to give them that little money they will pay salary and they keep their own share. So they are not doing anything. Before, if you look at 1999 to 2003, local government in Nigeria were building roads. They were building markets. There's nothing like that such going on in any local government, except for maybe in some places like a FCT. And FCT, if you look at the constitution, it's not defined as a local government. It's an area council, and they have direct line charge of their money coming from the federation account. So we have a challenge. And even despite the Supreme Court judgment that local government should get their financial autonomy, the president has refused and the attorney general have refused to implement it for their own selfish reason, for the fact that they are negotiating with state governors on what to be done on a judgment that's been given by the highest court of the land. So this is what weakens the fabric of our democratic engagement. It weakens it so deeply that people manipulate the process for their own interest. Sometimes, maybe you find out that the person who was reporting this in Plateau State before was actually, maybe he has been changed by the farmer, and then report comes. We need to have a proper security measure in place to be able to look at this. And even if we have to now look at the economic value or seeing what we can do, probably export some of these things and then make money from it. We need to also look into it. We can't continue to burn everything and then we're not saying people should take drugs. No, there's also economic value to some of these products. Can we look at that angle and export it, and for those who can make use of it? Because we can't continue to dive in one direction and hoping that our fortunes will change. There are opportunities in this area too that government should also take a look at and utilize it for the benefit of our people.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Peter Ame, for being with us this morning and sharing your thoughts on some of these views. I'm looking forward to 2027 because I don't know what is going to happen with your party. I don't know what's going to happen in the Labour Party. I don't know if Peter Obi is going to be your candidate. No one knows what's going to happen in the next few years, but we do hope that all things work out. Do you want to give your assurances to the Nigerian people that the Labour Party will have its house in order in time for the elections?
What I want to tell people is that Peter Obi will get this right. He's going to get it right.
Whether with Labour or not.
He was going to get it right.
He will get it right.
He will get it right for the good of our people. It's not about trying to be in office. It's about trying to get into office with a plan and make sure these plans are executed. And anybody who tells you that 4 years is not enough, these are people who feel entitled to 8 years. Because Section 132, Section 2 is clearly states that you will be elected for a period of 4 years and you will vacate the seat. If you don't put yourself forward for another election. When people go to do business inside room and say, I will do just 4 years, it's different from when people come to national television to say they will do 4 years.
El-Rufai says we shouldn't believe people who say they are going to do it.
El-Rufai is using his own political judgment to judge others. There are people who are very credible and driven by integrity and who believe that only what they want to leave behind as a legacy is that people remember them for saying what they promise. And
Mr. Peter Ame, National Secretary of CUPP, thank you again for being with us on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much.
So we continue this conversation, from some of the things that our previous guest, Mr. Peter Ame, had spoken about. Our next guest is Dapo Adaramewa, who is an entrepreneur, a strategy and policy consultant, and a proud, outspoken member of the Obedient Movement. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for that spectacular introduction as well.
Oh, really?
That's good.
Okay, maybe you have to pay for that one.
Okay.
But I have to, first of all, point something out.
Okay.
Your cap and your spectacles remind me of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Is that deliberate?
I've heard that before, and I've also heard that the mustache is, what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. Another one of our prominent leaders as well.
Okay.
I certainly admire Chief Obafemi Awolowo. So if people say I look like him, I'll take it. Thank you.
Maybe in a way, also, the spectacles will remind you of the president, but we don't want to go there right now.
Oh, okay.
Well, one of the conversations, well, let's start with that. Let's taper back to what our previous guest spoke about when he was talking about the criticism of Mr. Peter Obi. People are criticizing him that about particularly concerning the passport renewal and all of that, and that's not the only criticism. He's also gotten some clapbacks from people about his comments concerning the Rivers State elections and all of that. What do you make of all of that? First of all, his comments and the clapbacks that you've heard.
Well, it's not new that there are clapbacks to everything. I genuinely believe His Excellency Peter Obi could say water is good for the body, and the opposition would drum up some argument against that and say he's trying to water down Nigerians' opinions. That is not, it's not new. It's just a factor of fear. I mean, we all saw what's happening in Rivers State. We all saw what seems to be an unconstitutional overthrow of a democratic elected body. Now we're having elections under an undemocratic, administrator of the state. So I don't think there's anybody that really, who cares about democracy that would not speak out against what happened and what is happening in Rivers State. It's just unfortunate that politics has become such a toxic thing that we cannot call out things that are against that, because an attack on democracy is not an attack on His Excellency Peter Obi alone. It's an attack on every member of the democratic institution, including the ruling APC party. So the very people who are proponents for all these actions or all the things that are happening in Rivers State will also be the people who suffer from it later down the line.
I saw one of the things that you said about yourself, an outspoken governance advocate. And so let's speak to the governance part of it. Because for every environment, well, even though it is popularly said that there is nothing new under the sun, yes, but then there are some things, we have innovation. Mm-hmm. Right? There are some things will still happen that would be like, wait, what's going on here? In the case of Rivers State, for instance, one of the complex dynamics here is this. On the one hand, as you said, and a number of people have said, these local government elections happened under an emergency, a state of emergency. It's a very novel thing. I don't think that has happened before in our polity, even be it democratic or military. But the other angle to it is that there is a tenure to every local government administration. They have to get out of the office at some point. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that if you do not have a democratically elected local government system, you cannot get your local government resources. So now we seem to be standing between the devil and the deep blue sea. What do you say about that? It's an interesting dynamic, don't you think?
It is an interesting dynamic, but it has a very simple solution. Now, the reason why we're in this emergency situation is because the president declared it. He cannot declare it at any given time. If his priority is maintaining the democratic norms and ensuring we follow the Supreme Court's ruling or whatever, it is a very, very simple thing to simply bring the governor back in time for the local government elections to happen. It was a simple word that was given from his, and that is still being disputed in the courts, by the way. But he can simply go back on that. It's not, we are not in a tight corner. It's a very simple thing. The same way he woke up in the morning, wrote something out, gave an interview, and passed, he can also wake up in the morning and reverse it.
So he just reverses the state of emergency simply because of a local government election?
No, simply because it's unconstitutional and it's detrimental to democracy.
What is unconstitutional? The fact that he declared the state of emergency?
The state of emergency, removing the governor and all duly elected officials within that state. I am of the opinion that it is, unconstitutional. That is still being disputed in the courts, but I have my own strong opinions about that. But he certainly has taken this action, and he can reverse it at any given time. Rivers is not better as a result of that decision.
Okay. Well, it's not unconstitutional to declare a state of emergency. What is being contested is the removal of the governor and all of those things. But that is on one hand. Another thing that it's not just Mr. Peter Obi that is getting the clapback. Even the obedient movement seems to be getting the same clapback of cyberbullying and any statement that is not going in a particular direction. It will seem like no other person's comment matters if it doesn't align with that of the obedient movement. How do you respond to that? Is that a fair way to look at it?
You see, these accusations, I find them very interesting. Now, let's bear in mind, what is the obedient movement? Let's try and take that moniker apart, right? It is simply a collection of individuals who believe that a new Nigeria is possible. It's a bunch of individuals who believe that politics can be played differently. And we see an embodiment of these values in His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi, right? Now, not all of us are on Twitter. And this idea that anything that happens in the Twitter space is representative of all of the whole obedient movement is just wrong. The large majority of obedients are people like myself, businessmen, entrepreneurs, who just simply believe that the best hope we have is embodied in Mr. Obi, right? Now, there are some people who do say offensive things. And the truth is, His Excellency Peter Obi has always called for issue-based politics, not politics of religion, not politics of sentiment, not politics of tribe, not politics of insults. He himself has never insulted anybody. He has, in fact, come to the defense of some people that were being bullied online. So this idea that we are going to blame Peter Obi for anything that anybody on Twitter does, it's just flat out wrong.
Well, clearly, no one is blaming Mr. Peter Obi for the comment of anybody.
They are.
Oh, really?
Some individuals certainly are.
Perhaps maybe the expectation is as a leader of the obedient, because the obedient movement, the word obedient drew its name from his surname. So perhaps the expectation is, look, you should be able to, correct these guys. And, one wonders whether or not that happens by the system, the leadership, such as yourself.
He has done that. He has done that in the past. He has said it repeatedly that we need to focus on the issues of Nigerians. And that should be the priority. We should focus on the fact that Nigerians are unemployed, the fact that people are hungry, the fact that people are struggling to meet their daily needs. There are families that are deciding whether they can eat egg on Monday or they have to wait till Friday, right? Those are the issues His Excellency would like us to talk about, and not these issues. He has come out again and again and said it is not about anything else apart from the issues. His passion is in Nigerians. Now, I don't know if they expect Peter Obi to give up his pursuit to revolutionize and change our country and start responding that anytime somebody says something wrong, he's like a school teacher with a cane running around flogging people on Twitter and say, don't say it, don't say it. That's not his job.
Well, anyway, I don't think... I'm even trying to picture that image in my head of some school teacher coming up, but I don't think that will
responding
happen.
to every tweet.
Something you said, that a bunch of people who believe that a new Nigeria is possible. Absolutely. So on the one hand, it will sound like anything that does not sound like what the obedient movement wants. Without interrogating it, there is an attack on that statement. On the other hand, you said a new Nigeria is possible, and everybody believes that a new Nigeria is possible, including 100%. The people who are not members of the obedient movement. But the question is how? So to take on that issue, on the one hand, if it doesn't sound like what the obedient movement wants or members of the obedient movement wants, it's clobbered down. How do you have, I'm pretty sure you heard that before. How do you respond to that one?
There's nothing wrong with debating issues. You see, when you say clobbered down, it's almost as if we're trying to close the conversation. I don't believe that's anybody's hope or desire. It's the same regardless of what political party that you support, right? If somebody proposes an idea that you do not align with, you speak up against it. That is the nature of democracy. There has to be a dialogue from both sides. And the obedient sometimes are very vocal about it. They say, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I agree with you.
There are some elements that maybe shouldn't articulate themselves that way, but we get that across board. It's a huge movement. Remember, in the last election, we had over 6 million people vote for His Excellency. Well, that's what was declared for us anyway. We know it was more than that, right? Now, how many of those people do you think are on Twitter? Not many. So the obedient movement is much broader than Twitter. Twitter just happens to be a very vocal area where discussions are happening. And if you look at the nature of Twitter itself as a social media, right, you will see that across different countries, it is known for, you know, being a place of rancor in America, in the UK. It is that kind of space. And that's okay to an extent, because sometimes things need to be said, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that the obedient movement is a large movement that is focused primarily on the well-being of Nigeria. His Excellency Peter Obi is focused on primarily the well-being of Nigeria, and that's why he believes in security, education, and creating jobs for Nigerians.
Well, you've also heard this spat between Mr. Peter Obi and Mr. Adeyanju, the back and forth that is making the rounds about that one. Accusation, counter-accusation, daring, you know, here and there. What's your take on that?
I think DG has spoken well of Peter Obi in the past, right? Because he recognized the value that he brings to Nigeria. Now, somewhere along the way, some individuals hurt DG's feelings. And I understand that. Now, while his feelings
Some individuals being members of the obedient movement?
People on Twitter.
Okay.
Have hurt his feelings and said some things that hurt his feelings. His feelings are valid. But he really needs to put his big boy pants on and focus on the main issue of Nigerians. Just because individuals insulted you personally does not mean you then attack His Excellency Peter Obi, who is a bastion. He is a politician that stands above all the rest, and we all know it. So these false accusations, which rightfully, like any other citizen, His Excellency has a right to defend himself. He has a right to sue an individual who's defaming him and making not just insulting statements, but claims of bribery, of things that we all know to be wrong. I mean, look at the antecedents of the man. Here we have an individual who came to Nigerians and said, I want to be your president. And I know they give she. Now you're going to tell me that's the same person that went to go and be talking to DG about money? Absolutely not. It's impossible.
You do know that, you know DG Adeyanju.
Yes.
You do know that before this guy will even make any statement, there will be one or two things that he will have up his sleeve. Do you think it is a battle the obedient movement wants to face?
If he has anything up his sleeve, he would have taken it to the right channels. There's the EFCC, there's the ICPC, all of which are on Twitter. He can simply DM them with his evidence and have them do their investigation and arrest anybody who is found culpable. This isn't about crimes. This is a trial in the public space. Now, it begs the question that what is motivating this change? Why is he so desperately trying to harm His Excellency, right? And I think it's because they're afraid. And they should be afraid. The greatest threat to the political system
who
in Nigeria...
Who is afraid now? DG Adeyanju is afraid?
The existing order and anybody who supports it.
And you think DG Adeyanju is working with the opposition to the Labour Party?
He is certainly working to the detriment of the one and only viable candidate that has given us an alternative in Nigeria right now. He is working to, even if he's not under the APC banner, he's certainly working to their benefit and has promised to give his vote to them.
Well, it's his.
It is. He can give it to whoever he wants.
You know, quickly to the question of how that we spoke about the other time. One of the challenges I have seen in my practice is that, to a large extent, many people speak without getting facts, without verifying facts. And the obedient movement is no less. Sometimes there are some facts that you hear. Someone just throws something, and without verifying it, everyone goes after it. Yeah, I mean, it's not only the obedient movement that does it, but, and you also said that the youth, we know the way they are and everything. It's not peculiar to this youth generation. The Awolowas, the Azikiwes, they were also quote-unquote rebels in their own time. Otherwise, we would not have the independence we had at the time that we had it. Now, but the question is that of verifying facts. Is there a system by the obedient movement, the management of the obedient movement, for voter education, political education for the people, so they speak with facts, with knowledge, and not just with sentiments?
That's fair. Now, there seems to be this mistake that anybody who believes in Obi and says anything now speaks on behalf of the obedient movement. And that's just blatantly wrong. Do you understand? There are people who say whatever they want to say, articulate themselves without fact-finding. That does not mean that that is the stance and the belief of all obedience. I'm standing here today, a firm believer in the obedient movement, a firm believer in His Excellency Peter Obi. And you can check my Twitter, you can check my entire Twitter history. I've never at any point insulted anybody because I believe in what His Excellency says, which is let us focus on the issues that really matter.
Okay.
The issues that will make a difference in the lives of Nigerians. Because no matter how much we talk about what Deji said, what he did not say, people are hungry. Many went to bed hungry yesterday night. And that's not what is going to change it. It's what we do in the next election that might give us hope.
Okay. Quickly, because we're out of time. What party does the obedient movement belong to?
We are firm believers in His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi being the best candidate for the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Okay.
Right?
So what party does your principal belong to?
Right now, he's in the Labour Party.
Not the ADC?
We are working with the ADC.
Okay. Clearly, you are sounding like a politician yourself, but I'll leave that. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Adaramewa is an entrepreneur, strategy and policy consultant, and spokesperson for the obedient movement. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that's the show this morning. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning, your Monday morning, your first day in the month of September. Maya Makinde, enjoy the rest of your day and week.
Indeed, have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa. Have a wonderful week ahead.